good afternoon, and give me one more minute and we will be starting up. Just one more minute, please. All right. Good afternoon, and welcome to another wonderful Winning Wednesday. It's always a pleasure to be here. We welcome you. And as you are signing in, I'll be just getting things ready on my end so that we can have a good and insightful conversation today. Thank you all. For those of you who are already signed on, thank you for being with us today. It's always a pleasure. We always look forward to our Wednesdays because as the day wraps up, we jump on here and we have conversations with you, our business community. Welcome, welcome. This is another wonderful Winning Wednesday. We will be jumping onto our topic. Lee will be joining us. He should be wrapping up his last call and he will be joining us. But in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed the time with family and loved ones over Thanksgiving and you had an opportunity to connect with someone. Sometimes, even as family, sometimes we draw so further away from each other. We don't realize how life is just so important and life is just so short. So I hope you spent a wonderful Thanksgiving and you had an opportunity to spend it with loved ones, to spend it with family, and get to connect and be intentional about your connections and having conversations and just being there for each other as family. All right, today what we are going to be talking about is hiring and scaling with business credit, or with business capital rather. So hiring and scaling with business capital, and the question is where to spend first. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that interesting? Where to spend first. When you have that capital, that business capital that you've been looking towards or looking for, and now you finally have that capital, the question is, where are you going to spend that money first? That's what we want to be talking about today. But before we jump onto the topic, let's welcome Lee. Hey, Lee.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Did you
Yeah,
say happy and wonderful winning Wednesday?
that's your line, but I said
All right.
it.
You got to
Yeah.
keep the momentum going when I'm not able to join. I just finished up a coaching session and we went a little bit over. So
Uh-huh.
I was a little bit late in joining you all on this fine December. Can you believe that it is now the month of December?
Last
So
month
if
of the
you
year.
had any 2025 resolutions, you better get in gear.
Yep. You better try and wrap it up and make sure that you've you've accomplished those.
You better put it into gear. That's all I can say is if you had any goals for this year that you haven't yet put to bed, I would say that you want to make sure that you're getting to that really quickly. One
Yep.
thing, let me just go into the the script so that I can put it up there on the screen. I don't think you were able to catch that. Do you have it there?
No. But I did mention that today we will be having a conversation about hiring and scaling with business capital,
Yeah.
where to spend first. So you've been looking and filling out applications or whatever you've been doing to get that capital. Now that you have this business capital, the question is, where are you going to spend it first? What's going to be your first priority? Is there a first priority, or how do you approach now finally getting this capital and now saying, how do I hire? How do I scale?
Well, the no business is a business if it doesn't have sales, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So if you had to make the first decision about where are you going to spend any resources that are available to you, I would think that you would want to make sure that you are basically spending resources and speaking to that avatar where they are in the
Mm-hmm.
language that they actually do understand. So I often see a lot of business owners that they don't have a well thought out marketing plan as to how they are going to bring in business. And I think that that's probably the first place that if you needed to access resources, that's where I would spend. Because if you don't have customers coming into the door, you don't really have a business.
Yeah.
Like I just started reading this book called The Prosperous Coach. And when you think about coach is, right, there's two sides to the coaching business, right? The first side is being a coach. So being in the chair and actually coaching people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the side that I believe that lots of people are always passionate about. Then there is the coaching business. That's
Mm.
client acquisition, that's bookkeeping, that's accounting, that's marketing, that's all of those other things that the coaches really don't like, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, in order to be here and be a coach, you have to do all of the things that you don't like, the hard
That gets you
parts of
there.
the business.
Mm-hmm.
The hard parts of the business, right? Because being in the coaching chair is pretty easy once you get a handle of it. But I believe that you always should be growing. So, are you a coach if you don't have anyone to coach?
Mm.
I would say in name only, name and title only, you are a coach if you don't have any clients to be coaching. So, what do you have to do in order to acquire those clients? You have to make them an offer that they cannot refuse.
Mm. Well, I agree with what you're saying, and I also agree that this is applicable whether you are offering a service or a product. As
Yes.
a lot of times, I get into conversations with entrepreneurs who offer products, and they just want to fill up and get the product, right? And a lot of times, with the focus on the product, you can forget who is going to consume the product. It's one thing to have your stock, to have your product there. However, if you don't have anybody to consume it, it's just sitting there. You are not in a position to pay it off if you had used some type of business credit to acquire it. You are not able to pay for your storefront, all these things. So, like you just said, without doing your marketing, without having those clients coming in and actually paying for your service or paying for your product, you don't have a business. And
No,
I'll,
at that point in time, you have inventory.
yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing though. What's your take on this? Is it just about having those customers come in and consume or pay for your service? Or is it also about taking it a step further where you're saying it's not just about that, but it's also about actually making a profit?
Well, at the end of the day, you're in business to make a profit.
Yes.
Otherwise, you aren't in business, you are running a charity.
I love that. I love that because, yeah, as an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're looking to just break in, say, hey, if I can just get the funds and then just, set everything up. But it's not just about that. You have to go a little bit further where you say, okay, now that I've set up, now that the product is here, I need to make sure that I'm going to make money. Because, like you said, if you're not making the money to be able to buy more stock or to be able to pay for operational expenses or things of that sort, then we can just register you as a charity and we can just, say, starting as of today, you're just doing charity. We are not expecting a profit from you. So it goes beyond. Um, so with that in mind, though, then would you say as you get capital, should your focus be on whether it's marketing, advertising, or hiring?
No, I wouldn't hire until I need to hire,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to make sure that I do have, because you said you speak to people and sometimes their service. If you're providing a service, that is your product,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So with your service, you have to be ensuring that your customer feels as though they have received a quality product,
Mm-hmm.
right? Quality is going to be the name of the game in that space that you're playing,
Mm.
right? But all of these things are things that the entrepreneur should be thinking about before they decide to strike out and go. So you got to do your business planning, you got to do your market research to
Mm-hmm.
understand the demographics, and all of that needs to be dialed in before you have said, "Hey, I can pretty much make a profit." And it's not, you don't want to make, 5 or 10% profit. I think you got to be in the place where when we were in sales, they would say that if you weren't making 25% profit, that was bad business.
Mm.
Right. So the profit that you are looking to make has to then support the lifestyle that you are looking to design for yourself and your family. So
Mm.
all of these things have to go into that formula that you're creating so that you can build out that first year budget. But here, the conversations that we are having with most people is over the fact that they haven't really done those two things. And I did some research before as to what are the top 5 reasons that most uh it's one of my chat GPTs, the top 5 reasons that most businesses don't survive to their 5th year.
Mm.
uh,
I can take a wild guess. I think one of them is going to be, of course, the lack of funds or access to funds. I can also think about not really defining who your target market is prior to opening up your business. And most likely for many, especially entrepreneurs, is not having that marketing plan or strategy in place so that even if you have to, whether you do it yourself or you hand it over, you have it laid out, you've thought it through to say, this is how we envision being able to get clients or customers.
Well, I actually thought that the top reason was that the entrepreneur did not understand their market. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually reason number 4. Right?
Mm.
Businesses often fail because they haven't validated demand, misunderstood their audience, or entered markets that are already saturated with a competitor.
Mm.
That's the number 4 reason why businesses aren't able to survive past their 5th year. Right? I just pulled this up in Chat GPT. Right? The number 1 reason why businesses fail within their first 5 years is insufficient capital or poor access to funding.
Yeah.
Many entrepreneurs start underfunded, relying too heavily on personal credit or cash flow without business credit, lines of credit, or adequate reserves. Even small disruptions can sink the business.
Mm. True.
The number 2 reason that was provided here, and I think that we've already touched on this, lack of a clear business strategy. A surprising number of founders launch without a clear business model, revenue plan, or defined value proposition. Without direction, they drift rather than scale.
Mm.
Now, and I know
Yeah.
ChatGPT is making wonders, but we have had hundreds of conversations with small business owners, and the reason why, well, we had these problems when we initially started our own business, but what we started to find is that, as entrepreneurs, we were running into more and more and more people who were having the same or similar issues that we were encountering. But since we had dialed in and solved for that Rubik's Cube, we could help others to avoid that 5-year cliffhanger,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that we would say is that if you're going, because the one thing is that those small business owners, they're bootstrapping their business. So they've already gone in, they've created their LLC, they are already got the neon lights and all of those types of things. I would say the better thing would be to make a minor investment in doing the business plan, doing the market research. That should cost you $1 or $2, $3,000 to put that all together, and then pressure test it with others to see if you can get others to want to invest in that business with you. If
Mm.
no one is coming up to you saying, hey, that's a pretty good idea, right? I'm willing to either give you, not give you, right? But buy equity into your opportunity, right? Or I'm willing to make a loan to you, then you know that there are certain holes inside of your business plan that need to be worked out before you go 10 toes in. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
it makes sense. I think a lot of times, and I know you do this a lot with your coaching clients, where a lot of times, with regards to wanting to start that business, for a lot of people, is this is something I'm passionate about,
Go
right?
ahead.
This is something I'm passionate about, and we tend to then just put the passion part of it in the forefront and forget that for a business there also has to be realistic. It has the numbers have to make sense too. It's one thing to be passionate, but passion on its own is not gonna take you that far, right? So it's
Mm.
a matter of navigating that passion and saying, okay, while I'm passionate about this, how do I just make sure that I am doing the right things, I am approaching things the right way, I am learning and making sure that I'm getting what I need for every phase of this business, coupled with the passion that I already have.
You know, the passion, I believe, will keep the fuel burning for a time, right? Because when you are passionate about a project, that means that you wake up in the morning ready to go.
Mm,
Like your feet hit the floor, you are injected with that power called passion, right? But I believe on the inverse side of that passion, it comes burnout. But also, when you are saying to yourself that you have this wonderful idea, right? You have this wonderful idea. And why aren't others seeing my idea the way that I see my idea? You're going to then run into self doubt, which then is going to dissipate that passion and is probably going to lead to burnout
mm.
because you won't be in the right headspace to keep that business going. So
Yeah.
I heard this analogy and I don't know if it's true, but you know, one of the smartest people ever to walk this earth as I know it is a person named Albert Einstein. And I was once told that a person had asked Albert Einstein if he had 60 minutes to solve a problem, how would he spend the time? Guess what his response was, Eunice?
I have no idea.
The way that I have heard it is that Albert Einstein replied back that he would spend 55 minutes planning because he would only need 5 minutes to execute.
Mm,
So, one of the things that I speak to in my coaching session, and this could be for a business owner or this could be for someone who is in career, is how do they make decisions? Right? There are different models that can be used so that you come out of a decision with high confidence, right? So
mhm.
there is something called it's called the rational decision model, right? Have you ever heard of the rational decision model?
I think so.
You think so? You know so. All right. So there are decision models, right?
Uh-huh.
And what the reason why I employ people to have a decision model is because you're always going to be in a situation where you have imperfect information, right?
Mhm.
You will never probably be able to make a decision and have all of the decision, all of the information that you need to make that decision, right? So without a model, you're going to be relying too heavily on your gut in order to make a decision, right? So you're an Accenture baby. You remember this, right? You
Mm.
would create a position paper where you would state the problem or uh, the problem or the opportunity, correct? After you have defined the problem or opportunity, then you must establish a decision criteria, right? What are you know, you always have the triangle. You could either have it done fast, you could have it done cheap, or you could have it done good, right? So that's going to be a decision around cost, time, or quality, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
you have to weigh the criteria that you're putting to each of those measures. Now you got to generate alternatives. You remember how the position paper would go? You would generate alternatives, then you would evaluate those alternatives. And then after evaluating the alternatives, you would then select the best of the alternatives. And that way you would be able to go back to your customer with the decision and the reasons why you made that decision, right? But before I would actually go to my customer with that decision, I would ask my team for feedback on the decision, understanding the process. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why I coach that is because I believe that if you've put in that amount of work, you only can stand up with confidence as you present that back to your audience.
Yes. Yeah.
If you have a business plan that has been vetted and tested by your peers, you feel confident walking into a bank. You feel confident walking to a venture capitalist. You feel confident walking to an angel investor and saying, here's my business plan. Either loan me some money or would you be willing to buy a portion of my company?
Mm.
I think Shark Tank is not really real. I don't think those people walk out of there with, all of that because it's just an idea. I think any venture capitalist is going to want to look at your business plan, make sure that you've dotted your I's and you crossed your T's before they're actually going to put resources into a bank account that can move the business forward.
Yep.
All right. So I think we solved that problem, right? If you had access to capital, the last thing that you want to do is have your business on a diet. Your business should not be on a diet. Your business should have access to food as though it's Thanksgiving every day. You do not want your business on Ozempic, right? You do not want your business on Wegovy, right? So if you had access to capital for your business, where would you spend that money first? And I would say
Mhm.
you would spend that money first where you have the biggest need, right? And that is typically going to be on marketing because you are not a business if you do not have customers coming through the door asking to purchase your product or your service.
Yeah. Well, I think we spent quite a lot of time talking about this, and I hope that this information was also beneficial to you all. It's it's amazing how with business, it's not always just the big things that you need to be focused on or to be doing. When you split things that need to be done into small, chunks that you can easily attack, all those small come together to the bigger things that need to be done. So yes, this for some may be one very small thing that a business owner needs to accomplish, but once it's done well, then the business is going to reap the rewards of having those customers come in and actually transact, right? But it takes time to plan it out, make sure you're doing it the right way, make sure that when you do get that capital, you now just deploy those funds where they need to go because you've done the work prior. You know where the funds are going to go and you know what you're going to expect, and you are flexible. When one thing doesn't work out after a certain amount of time, you can pivot and do whatever is necessary to get you the end product. But with that said, I think we've been here for what, more than 30 minutes today, but it was a good
30 minutes.
conversation. Thanks for being here again, Lee. I know you had a couple of sessions that you were, juggling around, but thanks for being here and thanks for always giving us a lot of information to process and to think about.
My
Any
big-headed
last words?
insights. That's what you're gonna call me offline, is my
Offline.
big-headed insights. But I see you want to be nice. But the last thing, and I said this last night when we were at the Cash Flow Breakfast Club, the reason why we do planning is to try to make the future predictable.
Yeah.
When you have a plan, it feels as though you can always see into the future. You almost have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
So if you're going to invest your time, your resources into a venture, I say do the necessary things and make sure that you have a business plan created. That's going to be your roadmap for at least your next 3 to 5 years. And
Mhm.
your business has an opportunity to be on the other side of the survival equation, because many small businesses don't.
Yep.
So we don't want to end it on a negative connotation. So back to having a wonderful winning Wednesday. With the Budweiser commercial, used to say hump day. You've made it halfway through the week and you only got 2 more days to go. But hopefully you aren't counting down to Friday, because you are enjoying what you're doing on a daily basis. Next
Exactly.
week, we will be talking about annual reviews, right? Keeping your business credit profile healthy, right? How do you keep your business profile healthy? And it's not just by paying your bills, but paying your bills on time. If you
Mm-hmm.
really want to get good at the game, you pay your bills before your bills are due.
Yep.
We're going to be out. We'll talk to you next week. Until next Wednesday, hope you're having a wonderful winning Wednesday. Take care.
Take care. See you next week.